Okay, everyone, welcome back to the Rangers review. It is Hearts 1, Rangers 3. Rangers get a win that they needed. Did the performance merit it? That's what we're going to touch upon post-match today. Chris Jack, 2 Jamie McCart own goals of Ashlav Cherney. Strike get all 3 points for Rangers, who had been pegged back to 1-1 at the start of the second half. Chris, they needed a win. They needed a performance. I'd argue they only got one. How did you see that performance and result from Tynecastle before we maybe get on to what Philippe Clement thought about the game?
I think it's a big afternoon in terms of the result. It's a result that the manager needed. It's a result that Rangers needed. Performance-wise, I think there's a lot there a lot that's still left to be desired from a Rangers perspective. I don't think the performance was good at all. First half was really poor, really low in terms of the tempo, low in terms of the chances created, and second half slightly better, I suppose. Obviously, you look at Rangers winning 3-1 at Tynecastle, you think that's a good day's work. But I think the manager perhaps sees it differently to how we see it. And having a quick look through the comments as just before we came live there, I think a number of the fans on the show kind of would back up where we stand on it. Personally, I don't think it was great. I tweeted it at the end of the game. There was that a result and a performance in terms of Rangers responding to adversity, or was it an afternoon that papers over the cracks once again? And it's safe to say that the majority of the responses on that was Rangers papering over the cracks. So I think that's where a number of people will stand on it.
And Clement's summary in the press conference, Chris, people can obviously watch it, they can read it. I've watched it quickly along the lines of Rangers created enough to win, perhaps more of a tendency looking at what they did as opposed to what Hearts did. You can't get away from it. He needed to win. As we said pre-match, is it a must-win game for him given the situation at the club? Certainly couldn't afford to lose again. Just bring us up to speed with what his verdict was in the game and how he kind of saw it. I know he spoke a bit about Clinton and Ciala too, who I'm sure we'll come on to briefly.
Just as you were speaking, I could try to find the exact quote. So he was asked about, is this one of these games where the result is more important than the performance? And he said the result is always more important. I hear that from you guys every week. And then he went on to say, you also cannot say that the performance was not good today. If you score 3 goals away at Hearts, you could have scored more with the offside situations. I think that's fair. No, he's not said anything there that's in terms of the offside. The Rangers did have those goals chopped off. But where I would would disagree with him is to say it was a good performance. I don't think it was a good performance. And as you touched on there, that doesn't really take into account what Hearts did this afternoon. Had a number of chances on a different day. Kabanga is leaving the pitch at half-time with a match ball tucked under his arm already. Scored a hat-trick. Thought Jack Butland made a number of really good saves. For me, he was Rangers man of the match. I don't think there was many other contenders in that particular race. But Butland made big saves at big moments to keep Rangers in it. And I think I say Clement came mentioning there, saying that they did have those goals that were chopped off. It was the Suter one a couple of minutes in, that was actually well worked from a corner. It's not exactly been a 40 of Rangers over the course of the season, but I thought that they actually worked that one quite well. It's obviously offside, had the one in the second half as well, so you can see where Clement is coming from. But I think he's putting a lot of emphasis on this being a really good performance when it just wasn't there. So I thought Rangers for large parts of it, too lacklustre. Midfield kind of bypassed for the majority of it. I thought the forward guys didn't really get into it, didn't offer enough. And as I say, overall, I think Hearts, if you go and watch the Neil Critchley's interview on the channel as well, he's saying he was scratching his head how Hearts didn't get something from the game. He said that they definitely deserve more. And I think you have to say, going on the balance of play and the chances that Hearts created, they can feel hard done by this afternoon to be going away on the end of a 3-1 home defeat.
Yeah, I mean, some comments Jim McCarroll, friend of the show, average performance, but a win is what was needed. Alan says, got the points, but team performance needs to improve big time. Philip saying Hearts got their tactics right and played better. Hearts XG 2.9 to 1.6. Chris, for me, if Clement used last week's chance creation as an example of the line he had on Sky Sports was this morning in his interview. I'm obviously watching it from home here at the game, so you wouldn't have seen it. He said we had enough chances to win the games 3 times over against Queen's Park. Rangers XG in open play, not including the Tavernier penalty, their expected goals was lower against Queen's Park than Hearts was against Rangers today. So I just think there's a big disconnect, and you can't say that you can't use that last week as justification for the other team's luck, and then not consider your own luck this time round. I mean, the top line stats for you, and we'll look into this in more detail tomorrow when we have the stats bomb data, which is more accurate. FOTMob says the expected goals was 2.91 in Hearts' favour to 1.61. Big chances for Hearts, 5 to Rangers 1. I think, Chris, and I'm saying I think before this point because I need to double check it when the stats bomb data comes out tomorrow. I think that will be a higher expected goals total than that which Rangers conceded away at Ross County in that infamous 3-2 defeat last season, which was the highest expected goals figure against in I think it was their last 5 seasons in the Scottish Premiership. I'm pretty confident it will be the highest expected goals tally that they've recorded in 5 or 6 seasons. I don't really know how you justify that from a performance point of view, and that's when we talk about longevity, when we talk about back in a project. I think today you have Jack Butland to thank. You have 2 own goals to thank. Yes, you have good spirit, fighting spirit, and the team keeping going, coming back when they were pegged back at a difficult venue in a difficult atmosphere. But on another, I just think that is not I don't think the result was a fair reflection of the performance, especially when you contrast it to last week. Tell me I'm wrong or I'm right. I don't know, but that's just how I'm seeing it from home.
As you know, and as viewers and readers will know, you're the stats expert amongst us. It's not my area of expertise, but I think the way you've explained it and the way you've outlined it there is completely fair. Clement mentioning last week that they had, was it 30 shots, whatever it was that he mentioned against Queen's Park. That doesn't make 30 really good, obvious goal-scoring, clear chances. A number of them were like guys just taking flyers from distance. Rangers becoming increasingly desperate as the game wore on. A shot from 25 yards does not constitute a really good chance that has been carved out. And again, I feel I've made a number of these points already this season, but Rangers still look like a moments team. They still look as if they're waiting for someone to be in the right place at the right time, rather than sustained periods of pressure, sustained patterns of play. That's like I mentioned the John Souttar chance earlier on. That was worked quite well from the corner. Yeah. The second one was they tried to do the same thing, completely messed it up and got slightly lucky that it ends up with Hadji putting the ball in and McCart then scores the own goal. That corner was not well worked, and Rangers they go through these phases where they just look like they're hoping that someone will do something. They're hoping that a Chernier, a Hadji, who has that vision, who has that wee bit of guile, who has that something different, will pull them out of a hole. Now we speak quite a lot about Rangers in terms of dominating games, but that's not dominating them in terms of having sustained periods of pressure and moving the ball well and moving the opposition into areas where they don't want to be. Yes, they do sometimes dominate in terms of chances, but that wasn't even the case. That wasn't the case today. Clement can point to that at stages over the season and say we had lots of chances, but again, what is the actual quality and what's the actual value of those chances, and how have those chances been carved out? Long range shots and hoping that guys are able to pull off a bit of magic. That's not sustainable. You can go through periods in a season where it is just about the results. It's about coming to venues like this and grinding them out. But again, a point that I think we've made on videos through the week and in our post-match analysis over the course of the season, Rangers just have not been dominant enough in terms of these in terms of these matches, and we always had the fear that performances would catch up with them, and it's caught up with them time after time after time this season. If you don't perform well, if you're not playing well, ultimately you don't get the results, and ultimately over the course of the season you're not going to win anything, and that's where Rangers find themselves right now.
Yeah, we'll get to some positives, Chris. People tell us we're being negative. We'll get to a couple of positives before the video closes. But again, that front, the three players behind Igaman, maybe if Clement has a couple of players more suited to what he's trying to do, real runners in there, people who thrive over bigger distances, then his football works a bit better. I just think there's a fundamental issue that Rangers are a team that they don't look at their best when they have the ball. And they need to be if you're talking about the project is to eventually win a Scottish Premiership, they need to be so much better on the ball. And a lot of mistakes I think happen because the style of play, they want to get the ball forward quickly. The passing options therefore are sometimes not great for players in possession because it's all about going forward. But we are repeating ourselves, so we'll stop there on the negatives. Positives, I thought you've got to give Clement and his team credit for coming back, for the fact that they did score 3 goals. They could have scored a couple more if marginal offsides didn't go against them, but obviously those goals were offside. I thought Diomande did well. Again, he gave the ball away in periods, but I think that's a byproduct of the system. Nsiala, a couple of shaky defensive moments, but for a player who's just come into the team, that's a difficult test, and I know Clement spoke about him in the press conference. I mean, who stood out for you performance-wise, Chris? Anyone else apart from Diomande and Nsiala?
No, so I thought Jack Butland was Rangers man of the match, and without Butland's moments that he had throughout the game, Rangers don't win the game. I think he's a difference.
Butland, of course,
between Rangers getting something and getting all 3 points, and ultimately going home with nothing, and bigger questions and bigger headlines being made. So I thought Butland was Rangers man of the match. Nsiala, as you touched on there, the manager mentioned him in his press conference. He said that he's actually further along in terms of his progress than he thought he would be at this stage. Gave a nod to the scouting staff for being able to go and bring him in, but gave a lot of praise to Clinton for the way that he takes on information in terms of the video work that they do, in terms of going through drills on the training ground, taking on information from likes of James Tavernier or a Leon Balogun or a John Shooter, who also played alongside today. Interesting that it was Nsiala that got the nod today. Now you think Robin Proper, £1.52 million signing in the summer, also hugely experienced compared to Nsiala, who still played 10 games or so maybe, even as many as that. So it's a big call for Clement to put Nsiala in, but I think he deserved it on form. He deserves it. Good to see him getting his chance. I thought he made the most of it. So out of what has been a really difficult situation and a really difficult few weeks, I think Nsiala has been one of the, not exactly a shining light, but been one of the positives at a time when positives are hard to find for Rangers. I think he deserves a lot of credit for having the mentality as well to actually come through this period, coming into a team that's not playing well, that's under pressure, where the fans are really also not in a good headspace. So I think he deserves a lot of credit for the way that he's actually come through, and coming through tests like this can only bode well. So hopefully we see more of him in the coming weeks, so he can continue to grow and improve.
Yeah, and finally, Chris, I mean, contrasting opinions. CGM55 says Diomande was honking. I totally disagree with that. I think he gave the ball away on a few occasions. Again, I just think that's a byproduct of the fact that look at what he has to do. He's building up on his own for large parts of that game. And you see the second goal, Cherney's goal, comes from Diomande just showing a bit of intuition instead of taking the safe pass, going around his man. So I'll respectfully disagree, but that's why football's a beautiful game. Aaron says Hadji created 2 goals. Yeah, that's definitely well worth a mention. Chris, we'll let you go. It's a noisy concourse there at Tynecastle hours after kickoff. I won't ask you where Rangers go from here. It's St Mirren next weekend, I think, at Ibrox, which I think could be a slow afternoon. Listen, Rangers needed to get that win. The fallout will continue. Did we learn anything new today?
Did we learn anything? No, not in the slightest. I don't think we learned anything. But as I said in my piece, Clement he'll take the points. He will look at what he thinks are the positives. I think he can head into this upcoming week with less noise, with fewer questions from the outside. But the concerns and the frustrations and dare say a lot of the anger, that will all still be there. This was never going to be a game or a performance. Rangers have come here this afternoon, played really, really well and won 5-0. Still doesn't really change the situation with the manager. People are that entrenched in their positions right now. And one of the points I actually made in my analysis on the website on the whistle there, it was a really subdued Rangers away end. Now, obviously, Hearts have cut the allocation right back in recent season. There's not thousands here, but even the ones that were here, it felt flat. There was a couple of kind of outbursts against the board, but even that wasn't really sustained and felt a bit kind of half-hearted at times. So really interesting to see, one, the attendance against St Mirren next weekend at Ibrox, and two, just the kind of mood of the fans. Do people still have an appetite to come and watch this team and to come and give this team their backing, or are they just scunnered and fed up and want the season to end? So there will be less noise this week, but I don't think there's fewer questions.
Yeah, good summary. I won't add anything to that. We'll, of course, be right across everything. Subscribe to the YouTube channel for free if you have not done so already. Really helps us out. Please do that. You can also become a Rangers Review Extra member for extra videos, early and exclusive every single week. We'll be back in the morning with Derek and a few others, of course, to talk over the game at more length and in greater detail. Until then, thank you for joining us. Thanks to Chris for being with us, and we'll speak to you soon. Bye for now.